Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
We'll visit 7 operations that have made stewardship and conservation a top priority as we highlight the 2019 winners of the Environmental Stewardship Award.
Now, from the Denver headquarters of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, it's NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Ochsner. Thanks for joining us. Protecting and improving the environment has long been the focus of America's foremost land stewards, farmers and ranchers. Now, in its 29th year, the Environmental Stewardship Award Program recognizes the nation's best cattle and livestock operations for their outstanding stewardship practices and conservation achievements. These regional winners are dedicated to maintaining and improving their lands for future generations. So today, we're going to share their stories with you. We begin in Region 1 with a visit to the winning operation from Virginia.
Just after dawn, cattle are on the move at Overhome Farm in Virginia. Ronnie Knuckles' family has been living and working on this land since 1876. Ronnie took over management duties in 2009 after years spent in the construction business.
It was a farm that I was very close to and the land I loved, and a lot of family history here, but I really had not thought of being a cattleman. I started looking, well, how can I improve this? If I'm going to do it, I've got to do it on my terms. I've got to do it where I can make a go of it and get it to where it's easier to handle by myself, because I would be by myself on most of it.
One concern Ronnie had was how his cattle were impacting the water sources in and around his property. The creeks on the farm feed into the James River, which then empties into Chesapeake Bay. So Ronnie worked with his Soil and Water Conservation District to install 15,000 linear feet of fencing, along with 35-foot vegetation buffers to exclude cattle from the streams and ponds.
We had a chance to clean them up, and they recovered very quickly. The eroded banks, the shorelines of the pond were all trampled. Within 2 years, they were green, and they continued to green and fill in and grow. And the paths that they had created to go down to the creeks and pond, have silted in, but they have filled and vegetated, and the water is just so much cleaner.
The environment looked like it was suffering the way it looked. I mean, it just looked tired, and this really rejuvenated our waterway. I mean, it really did, and our ponds.
The creeks were in bad shape when we came here, and just to see the beauty of this place now, the water quality improvements, the wildlife habitat improvements that go along with all of that. It's really been nice to come out and see what can be done with good management.
Ronnie also added a new system for getting water to cattle in pastures where it wasn't available before. Pond water is pumped into reservoirs and then gravity-fed to tanks throughout the operation. With the new water system in place, Ronnie was able to work with the Natural Resources Conservation Service to create a grazing plan that would improve the productivity of his pastures.
They suggested rotational grazing. Concept was entirely new to me. I hadn't dealt with it, had no experience with it. But they sold it with such confidence that it made it easy to accept it, that, hey, this will work. And so we put the plan in play and started fencing. We started rotating, and pastures, for the first time, had a chance to rest. Since the system has gone in, I've seen areas that I wanted to refine and subdivide, so I've gone in. And I've probably done another 1.5 miles, 2 miles of fencing out of my pocket because I know it works. I can see the benefit from it.
To further improve the quality of his forage and maximize his days on pastures, Ronnie began strip grazing by using polywire to subdivide his pastures.
I'm already rotating. Why do I want to strip graze? Well, within each pasture, you've got different types of grasses. If you give the cattle the whole pasture, first of all, they're going to trample half of it. So you've cut that pasture in half. So by strip grazing, you cut down on the waste. So you're expanding your grazing capacity because you've reduced your waste. They clean as they go, and then you can back fence and start regrowth the day after they come off.
Ronnie's a definite leader when it comes to trying some of these new forages and the grazing techniques. And the wonderful thing about it is, once he tries some things, he's been very open to inviting others from around the region to his farm on pasture walks and farm tours, just to share his experience and what's worked for him.
Ronnie and Cheryl made a long-term commitment to preserve their farm by placing it in a permanent conservation easement, which protects the land from development. It's just one of many stewardship efforts that are ensuring that the family legacy on Overhome Farm will continue.
I don't know, it's something about the history here, and if you keep looking back here, how many people in the family, generations, have farmed here. You just hope you can carry that on, it'll continue.
I've improved my animal health, everything about the appearance of the farm. Everything has built off of that one premise: we need to take care of the land. This farm has survived for 250 plus years, and I just feel like that it is a good farm now. I think it can be better. I think it can steadily be improved, and I think my goal as manager for this short duration is to make as many improvements as I can to make it that much better for the next generation to start, and hopefully they'll build on it.
One by one, we're highlighting the 2019 regional winners of the Environmental Stewardship Award. Let's head to Region 2 and meet the winners from Florida.
On Blackbeard's ranch, Brian Jones and his cowboy crew are working to beat the heat of the day by moving cows and calves just after sunrise. The 4,500-acre ranch was purchased by Galinsky Enterprises in 2014 and is managed by Florida cattleman Jim Strickland.
My family has been in Florida for 6 generations. We've always been in the cattle business. The cattle here on the ranch consist of cattle that we have kept for generations, that we've adapted to this environment for generations. And the cattle herds, we have a Brangus cattle herd, we have a Beefmaster cattle herd, and then we have a crossbred cattle herd that are mixtures of Brangus, Beefmaster, and Brayford.
Today in southwest Florida, houses are going in where cows were once grazing. That makes Blackbeard's ranch highly valuable as open space.
So we have a unique opportunity to tell people about ranch lands, about water, about what us ranchers do for Florida.
We're under a lot of pressure around the state for people to develop, and Jim just caught on fire, if you will, in the last 5 to 6 years promoting conservation, and actually has formed a group of ranchers called the Florida Conservation Group, and they're all like-minded ranchers who are very interested in preserving as much country as possible, but keeping it in private hands.
The wetlands of Blackbeard's ranch play a critical role in protecting water quality downstream. That's one reason why Jim worked with NRCS to put 1/3 of the ranch into a permanent conservation easement.
All we're doing is giving up the right to build a house. We're still grazing cattle on it. It's going to be a little wetter than it was, but it fit for us. That easement program fit for us.
Over the past 4 years, the ranch team has worked to thin dense trees and remove invasive plants, using herbicide treatments and prescribed burns to help restore native habitat.
So our burning plan is we burn 50, 60, 100 acres at a time in a mosaic situation. We're trying to help the cattle, we're trying to help the land, but we're also trying to help our wildlife.
So I think what he has done has been a tremendous service to conservation. If we want to protect, Florida's water and wildlife, we have to have a profitable cattle industry here, because that's where the wildlife are.
To implement a rotational grazing plan, new fencing has been added, and the ranch team has installed water troughs driven by wind and solar power.
There's been time that on this ranch alone we have 31 ponds, all but 2 were dry. We now have 5 windmills, and we've put in our first solar wells. So we are continuing to do cost shares to, one, give those cattle some clean, good water, and we can start moving those cattle around, that I don't have to depend on every single pond.
Jim has also diversified, producing a variety of food products, including Blackbeard's ranch beef, honey, and pork from Mangalitsa hogs raised on ranch pastures. It's all aimed at maximizing income opportunities and getting the story of agriculture and conservation to the public.
And one of the ways to get our word out initially was food. So if you see a Blackbeard product out there, that person or company is wholeheartedly agreeing to tell the story of ranchers in Florida, not just us, but ranchers across Florida doing the same thing we're doing.
Perhaps most impressive is the effort Jim and his team put into setting up the ranch as a place to regularly host visitors of all ages.
He will defend our industry. He will stand up for it, but he swung the gates open and is passionate about sharing the conservation methods of a Florida ranch with the public.
We really want to tell the story here and show that cattle ranching is critical if we want to protect our native wildlife populations, if we want to protect clean water downstream, because the alternative is development.
Today, Blackbeard's Ranch is a place where cattle are thriving. The land is improving and critical wildlife habitat is being protected. Jim came up with the name Blackbeard's Ranch in recognition of the pirate history in this area of Florida. But his vision for this land goes far beyond what any pirate could dream.
A lot of people say, well, Jim, are you looking for the silver and the balloons, the jewels and the sapphires and the rubies that Blackbeard or one of those pirates buried? I said I would love to find it, but the real treasure is the land itself. So we're looking forward to the future here. There's a lot of variables out there. Are we still improving? Every day.
These Environmental Stewardship Award winners are helping to make a difference every day. To join them as a member of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, just give us a call at 1-866-233-3872 or visit the website ncba.org. Still to come on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll introduce you to 5 more winners of the 2019 Environmental Stewardship Award, including a 4th-generation cow-calf operation in Minnesota that implemented a strip grazing plan to improve their grass and their soil. That story and more when we return.
Thank you to the men and women who continue to provide a safe, wholesome food supply through this pandemic. Beringer Ingelheim is proud to work alongside those committed to putting cattle first. Learn more at bicattlefirst.com.
Join the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. NCBA is working every day to defend your interests in Washington, D.C., and there are big benefits to being a member. You'll get news you can use in the National Cattlemen and policy updates from Beltway Beef, plus big discounts from John Deere and more great partners. Join now. Call 866-233-3872 or sign up online at ncba.org.
Welcome back. Cattle producers can face all kinds of challenges when it comes to protecting the environment, but they all have a common goal: leaving the land better than they found it. Today, we're taking a look at the 2019 regional winners of the Environmental Stewardship Award. Let's visit the Region 3 award recipients from Minnesota.
Didrikson Farms is a 4th-generation cow-calf operation located in northern Minnesota, just a short distance from the Canadian border. Brothers Thor and Dana recently took over day-to-day management of the 4,500-acre farm from their dad.
So right now it's my brother and I, and my dad is still involved. We actually just bought most of the land from him last year and finishing up this year, and then so So we're kind of right in the middle of that transition, but he's still around every day and helping out.
It was always a wish of my dad to pass it on and to hand over management reins, and that started when I first came home. He's always been very willing and interested to pass on that responsibility and decision making.
From the start, Thor and Dana made healthy soil and grass top priority. The brothers consolidated their cows to create fewer, larger herds. Next, they implemented a strip grazing plan, where they use portable electric fencing to divide their large pastures into smaller, more efficient areas.
Strip grazing is just we fence them into a strip for a set amount of time. And most of our pastures, especially now when we're calving, are daily moves. So we give them another strip of grass every day. And that's fresh grass. It hasn't had any livestock on it. It's adaptive, and you're basing your decisions off what you're seeing, what you're observing with the cattle, and what you're observing with the grass.
With strip grazing, we're increasing our stock density per acre, but the biggest benefit is we're giving a higher percentage of the ranch more rest at one time. We'll graze through this pasture once and then leave for the rest of the growing season.
The added rest has benefited their grass, and it's improved their overall soil health with an increase in organic matter and a decrease in weeds and water runoff.
If you focus on your soil health and regenerating it, making it better, not necessarily sustaining it, but making it better, the compounding production levels is astonishing, and it allows us to stock more animals on the same acres. The rest is really the key to the whole thing, and allowing that grass to fully recover before you come back. What's above ground is what's going down into the ground. And it doesn't take long, and in the soil profile, you'll start to see topsoil going deeper.
And by focusing on the soil, everything else really takes care of itself, because when you have that naturally productive soil, it produces great forage for you and keeps your cattle in great condition and therefore in great health.
Dana and Thor have worked with the Natural Resources Conservation Service to install permanent water sources in some pastures. In other areas, they use portable water tanks that can be moved along with the cattle. The improvements they've made have worked so well that the Didriksons are transitioning away from grain farming to only raising grass and cattle, something rare in this part of the country.
Livestock have always been our passion. Managing the grass and especially in recent years, seeing what we can really do to manage the grass and the soil with livestock has absolutely been our passion, and it's where we get the most enjoyment out of it, and it's offering the most return as well because of what we can do with our pastures.
Recently, the Didrikson family began selling beef raised on their farm at several local businesses. This gives them a great opportunity to share their story with consumers.
People love to buy it from a rancher, buy it from a farmer, because they have a connection with where their food comes from.
Thor and Dana have proven that high-quality beef production and conservation go hand in hand, and their sustainable practices make the land healthier and more efficient for generations yet to come.
I feel like we are renting the ground from my kids, my brother's kids, and their kids. We want to make it so it's better for them, or it's at least of equal or better quality soil and environment for them to take over. We want to make sure it's a sustainable, profitable business that can support families so that people can enjoy it.
To have a healthy environment, you need to have livestock, and you need to manage them correctly. And I know what we're doing is taking care of the land for the next generation, and we're going to hand it over better than what we got it, and that's the goal.
We've already seen 3 great operations as we highlight the 2019 regional winners of the Environmental Stewardship Award. Now, let's head to Region 4 and meet the winners from Texas.
In the heart of South Texas brush country, cattle graze across 125,000 acres on the Killam Duval County Ranch. David Killam has other business interests and owns ranches in several states, but his roots are in Texas.
My family's been in this area since around 1920, so close to 100 years. And we've been ranching down here in South Texas for that entire time.
Right now we've got about 800 cows on the ranch, cow-calf operation, and we shipped all of our yearling cattle to Kansas in April, so we don't have a whole lot running on the ranch right now other than the 800 cows, and they're running in 2 different herds.
David Kittner joined the ranch as manager in 2001. Since then, he's worked to transform what was an overgrazed and brush-covered landscape into a ranch that provides enough forage to support a profitable cow-calf and stocker cattle operation.
All this work that you can see out here at the Duval County Ranch is the result of his management and his expertise. And he's the guy that has implemented all these different things.
We're trying to grow grass and forbs and improve our country, improve the soil health by letting some grasses and that take over where it's been dominated by brush and prickly pear.
Aerial herbicide spraying has been one valuable tool to reduce the dense cover of mesquite trees and prickly pear cactus, allowing Kittner to sculpt a savanna that works for both cattle and wildlife.
It's dramatic, the amount of forage increases and not only standing grass, but also beneficial forbs that benefit wildlife are the result of controlling areas of brush.
In addition to brush control, water was a huge challenge, so Kittner mapped a plan to create reliable water sources. High-volume water tanks were recycled from an oil field and put in place to gravity feed the new water system. Then the ranch team worked to install over 300 miles of pipeline and more than 200 water troughs.
The water development at the Duval County Ranch is a story of success. They are now at a time where any animal anywhere in the place is not further than half a mile from water. That is hard to accomplish at a large scale ranch. Having water distributed throughout the ranch that way is essential in any rotational grazing operation.
Now their rotational grazing system is working to improve their forage base and allows their pastures to rest for as much as a year. And the ranch team is able to move their cattle with just a feed truck and a siren.
We spend a lot of time training cattle, especially the stocker cattle, coming in to move with a vehicle with a siren on it, because in these brushy pastures you can't gather them horseback. So if you don't train them to come to something, a horn or a call of some sort, then you're not going to move them.
After nearly 20 years under management that is focused on continually improving the land, the positive impact on the ranch is visible.
I guess the best thing about it is that we want the same thing. And so we've been a great team, and he's done a terrific job in understanding, the kind of the limitations of this country and the best way to work with it. And the improvements that we see out here are the result of what he's done.
That's what I live for, is to improve the soil health, the ground cover, and the wildlife. The wildlife's a big part of my enjoyment here.
Both wildlife and cattle are thriving on the Killam Duval County Ranch. And even though there's no shortage of challenges ahead, these two stewards share a commitment to doing what's right on the land.
It makes us feel good to have improved the country as much as we have. It's never done. You work at it every day. Everything we plan and do was with the idea of how is this going to affect the land.
We're all in this together and trying to improve the environment and the habitat in the country, and I think it's just looking at what we've done in the past and seeing some of the improvements and saying let's go do some more.
Now, if you'd like to find out more about the Environmental Stewardship Award winners, see photos and videos, or even learn how to nominate someone for the award next year, visit the website environmentalstewardship.org. We'll be back with more Environmental Stewardship Award winners, including a trip to Wyoming, right after this. Stay with us.
We didn't just design the 6M tractors with you in mind. We designed them with you by our side. The new 6M tractors from John Deere, reimagined by you, for you. With improved visibility, better maneuverability, and more ways to customize, so you get everything you need and nothing you don't. Experience the new 6M at your local John Deere dealer.
Now a BQA tip from the Beef Quality Assurance Program.
We know cattle are a great resource. They take a lot of materials, plants, things that are unusable in many other circumstances, whether it's grazing crops, grasses, co-products that are available, and we turn that into a very nutritious, dense product. But in order to do that and to be effective in doing that, we know that cattle we need to have the basics there in the framework to accomplish that. So nutrition is a big part of BQA from the standpoint that we need to not only make sure that animal is healthy, but we do that through making sure we have providing the adequate nutrition, adequate vitamin, minerals, and certainly a good clean water source for those cattle. Part of that entails looking at those feed resources, getting them evaluated and analyzed so we know exactly what we're providing to that animal, and just to set that animal up for success in utilizing those products.
Find out more about beef quality assurance at bqa.org.
Welcome back as we continue our look at the 7 Environmental Stewardship Regional Award winners for 2019. The desire to leave the land better than they found it is a common trait among cattle producers, and you certainly see that in action with the families we're highlighting today. Let's head to Region 5 and the winning operation in Wyoming.
In southeast Wyoming, Larry Kundel is right where he likes to be, on horseback, moving cows and calves to fresh grass on the Kundel Ranch. Larry grew up here, and he and his wife Ruthie worked this land together.
The ranch has been existing in the Kundel family for 102 years now. We're the 4th generation and love it here.
For Larry, of course, this is his family ranch. This belonged to his grandparents, great-grandparents. So there's a lot of history here. And for me, I just love it. I love the ranching. I love the cattle. We have a cow-calf operation, also a bred heifer operation.
The ranch is approximately 8,000 deeded acres, and we lease another 12,000 acres from 6 neighbors and 6 government entities. So we run on a little over 20,000 acres, and ranching's what we do.
The Kundel Ranch adjoins the Glendo Reservoir, which now covers the original headquarters. Their land also includes a section of the Oregon Trail, and Larry has worked to gather and preserve that pioneer history. And with a lifetime of experience, he's become an expert at monitoring the range to always keep improving.
I think grass likes to be grazed. The carbon cycle likes to be pumping that carbon in the soil, so I think it's our job to graze it. Not too much, not too little. For example, this year sweet clover is abundant. It's going to be here for a short time and it's going to be gone. We're trying to graze the sweet clover to leave just enough that it'll go to seed, take the top off and move on. It's about the cattle always, but it's really about the grass. And the last few years we've realized it's really about the ground and what's in the ground. Raising grass to raise the cows that nourishes a lot of people, we hope.
To supplement their grass, the Kundels use center pivot irrigation to produce hay for winter feeding. In addition, they've added miles of cross fencing and solar-powered water tanks to help strengthen their rotational grazing plan.
Thanks to NRCS, we've got, I think, 18 different solar wells, solar pumps. Where we don't have water access, we've got water lines. We've got, well, it's over 9 miles of water lines now, 3 separate water lines. Well, the one that we're putting in this week is the 4th water line that we're putting in that will water at least 2 or 3 different pastures.
From a stewardship standpoint, the Kundels have done a really great job. Cattle are now grazing areas that they weren't able to access before due to distance to water. They're seeing a benefit there. It's also benefited the wildlife as well.
They've developed water in this arid plains area, but the antelope and the mule deer and the elk and even the neotropical birds, the grouse, they all benefit from that water development. They benefit from the crops that are grown from the alfalfa. So I think they're a stellar example of stewardship and sustainability.
Whether installing living snow fences, using genetic selection to reduce the size of his cows to better fit his resources, or experimenting with biochar to get more carbon in the soil, Larry is continually looking for ways to do things better, and he's always willing to share his knowledge with others.
You know, Larry's a great spokesman. He's talked and gives speeches, I know in Washington, D.C., I know even in Guam, all over the western United States, he's given presentations on, good range management and wildlife habitat management.
It's just exciting to see new technology come along that works with Mother Nature and maybe is a benefit to everybody.
With an eye for every detail, the management of Kundel Ranch has resulted in a sustainable family operation, and Larry and Ruthie have built a legacy of exceptional care for their cattle and their land.
Sustainability is really pretty natural. It means you leave the ground better than you found it, you leave your community better than you found it, and you got to make money doing it. If you don't make money, you're not sustainable.
We want to leave a legacy here. We want this land to be better than when we got here, and we want whoever takes over to improve it even more. Just keep making it better.
I guess, first of all, I'm proud that our family's still been here over 100 years. I think that's something to be proud of. I am. We've still got cattle. We've got more cattle than we've ever run, and the grass is looking better than it ever has. So I'm proud of that. Stewardship to me, I guess, is a lot like sustainability. It's taking care of what you got and leaving it better than the way you found it, if possible.
We're not done talking about the 2019 ESAP regional winners. When we come back, we'll show you the Region 6 winner in New Mexico. Stay with us.
If you'd like to know more about NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen and have an opportunity to support our effort to create valuable news, information, and education just for cattle producers, then check out our website, cattlementocattlemen.org.
In the world of cattle vaccines, when you see fewer reactions, you'll notice healthier cattle and higher profits too. Because sometimes good protection is about what you don't see. Protect your productivity with cattle vaccines from Merck Animal Health. Proven to cause fewer reactions. You'll like what you see. Our trusted portfolio is just one more way Merck Animal Health works for you. Talk to your veterinarian and visit cattlefriendlyvaccines.com to learn more.
Every day, cattlemen and women care for their land and their animals. They do so because they're committed to leaving what they have better than they found it. Today, we're featuring the 2019 regional winners of the Environmental Stewardship Award. Let's take you to New Mexico to see the Region 6 award winner.
In northeast New Mexico, Ute Creek Cattle Company has been in the same family for more than 200 years. Tutta Libby Cruz is the 7th generation to ranch on this land.
Jack and I lived in Wyoming, Cheyenne, Wyoming for 37 years, had a wonderful life there. I knew we'd come back to the ranch eventually. My heart never left. And although I had a wonderful life, I was very excited about coming home.
When Tutta and Jack inherited the 14,000-acre ranch, it was suffering from overgrazing and neglect. So they decided to make some major changes. The first step was partnering with their Soil and Water Conservation District, as well as the Natural Resources Conservation Service, to clean up Ute Creek, which runs through their operation.
And the first thing we did was fence off the riparian area for 10 miles through the ranch. That would preclude cattle from grazing. And the ground has just improved so dramatically. You can see it's sod covered. The shore is grass right up to the water. We're sub-irrigating this whole riparian area now, and it's working beautifully.
We started on the creek, sprayed salt cedar, fenced the creek out, started in the riparian area, so we kind of started from the bottom up, and Jack and Tutta had a vision from the beginning of where they wanted to be in the end. It's an amazing transformation of what they've done to the place.
And I think the creek is probably the cornerstone of all the work that we've done in the last 18 years. It's our pride and joy.
The fencing around the creek became the starting point for a new grazing system. Tutta and Jack installed 25 additional miles of fencing, which divided the original 4 large pastures into smaller, more manageable paddocks.
We were able to run fences out from the riparian border fences to create our 23 new pastures. And so it really worked slick. It was like a grand plan that came together.
We have a good overall plan, and then we adapt it as we need to, kind of on the fly, and what the land is telling us. Because you can really lay out a plan on the computer or have this big plan, which is good, but you need to be able to read the land and the environment and kind of watch and let it tell you what you need to do.
So we use our cattle as a tool to maximize forage production and to help control invasives, because the more you graze and you graze it well, the fewer weeds come back.
Since Ute Creek was no longer available as a water source, a new distribution system was installed to ensure cattle can have access to water anywhere on the ranch.
We determined the highest point on the ranch, which is on that hill over to the east, and we put 2 10,000-gallon water storage tanks, and then that gravity flow allowed us to put in pipelines, probably 25 miles of pipeline, and all 2-inch poly pipes so we could have plenty of recharge. And then we take water all over the ranch from that point.
It's a big deal having access to the water, I feel, where the pairs can come up and those calves can drink next to their mothers and get what they want and then go lay down and chew their cud or go back out and graze, whatever they want to do.
Ute Creek Cattle Company also added shade balls in their tanks to help reduce water loss. The balls allow for rain to pass through while reducing evaporation. Thanks to their conservation efforts, wildlife on the ranch is thriving, and Tutta even set aside 23 acres of pasture to create her own wild bird sanctuary.
Shortgrass prairie birds are imperiled. I mean, there's so much development going on. We're losing them at a very large rate. So having this just special place for them to thrive and nest, that's my pride and joy.
Tutta and Jack are always thinking about their children and grandchildren and the future of Ute Creek Cattle Company. It's why they work hard to make a positive difference on the land.
My wife is 7th generation on this land. 7 generations. She wants it to be 8 and 9 and 10. We can tout how much we've done, but it's just a beginning. It's a forever kind of project.
We do not inherit the land, we borrow it from our children. And so we have borrowed this land from Livy and Ted, and we've done the best that we could to leave it better than we found it. I have such a love of the land and such a commitment to honoring the people who work so hard to keep it in our family. And I feel a deep responsibility as well as a love for it.
Want to rewatch an episode of Cattlemen to Cattlemen or catch up on anything you've missed? Then visit YouTube and subscribe to the Cattlemen to Cattlemen page. You'll find replays of all of our shows filled with educational segments and producer profiles from all around the country. It's also another chance to see Baxter Black. So check out and subscribe to the Cattlemen to Cattlemen page on YouTube. When we come back, we've got one more ESAP regional winner to show you, this time in Kansas. Stay with us.
The iconic Farmall tractor revolutionized farming as the first truly all-purpose tractor. Since 1923, millions of Farmall tractors have been sold. Today's Farmall Series tractors from Case IH build on the tractor's legacy as a versatile workhorse. Farmall tractors are durable and easy to use. Regardless of your tractor needs, with engine horsepower ranges from 30 to 140 and value, deluxe, and premium models available, there's a Farmall to meet your needs and budget. A comfortable and spacious operating area makes working long hours more productive and enjoyable. Once you drive a Case IH Farmall, you'll understand why customers are more loyal to Case IH than any other brand. With 0% financing available now, being a part of the Farmall family has never been more affordable. Talk to your local Case IH dealer or visit caseih.com/minute.
What does it mean to be an American cattleman? It means you have what it takes where it counts, on the inside. At Ritchie, we understand that. It's what's on the inside that defines us. We share the same values: ingenuity, commitment, sense of pride. These are the values that built this country. They're the values that built this company. Ritchie, proud to be a partner to the American cattlemen since 1921.
We're bringing you some great stories about conservation as we highlight the 2019 Environmental Stewardship Award winners. Now, let's visit Kansas for the Region 7 winner.
In southwest Kansas, the Blue Partnership is a cow-calf operation that ranges across vastly different landscapes. Brothers CJ and Russell Blue are fifth-generation ranchers who run their Red Angus cattle on about 19,000 acres that are as much as 75 miles apart.
Because, we're 95% leased land, and we will take an opportunity wherever we can, and so we're somewhat spread out. We have native range in Barber County that looks a little bit more like New Mexico maybe than it does Kansas, all the way to irrigated grass where a cow doesn't want for much. We enjoy a project. It's a little challenging, but also rewarding to take something that's wrung out and in dire straits, so to speak, and get it right-sided up.
In fact, their Barber County ranch was in tough condition when Russell and CJ first leased the property in 2012.
This ranch was, when we talk about invasive species, there was anywhere from 23 to 40% canopy of eastern red cedar. At the end of the day, we really are in the land rehabilitation business. And I say that because we couldn't have the cows without the land resource. It all starts with the land resource. And the cows are just kind of a tool for us to help improve it.
In 2016, a major multi-state wildfire burned through the ranch in Barber County. Devastating as it was, the fire accelerated the Blues' timetable for reduction of eastern red cedar and helped restore native grasses. Now, with improved soil, streams that were once dry are flowing again. Continuing the improvement, the Blues worked with NRCS to add miles of cross-fencing, aiding their intensive rotational grazing plan. And they've installed an extensive system to distribute water throughout the ranch.
Well, we've had probably the biggest water projects we've ever had the opportunity to do. So, one was 30-some thousand feet of underground line, another one was 40-some thousand feet of underground line. So large water projects, multiple wells, stockpile tanks where we put them at high elevation and gravity feed from those. The high capacity, the higher volume water systems have definitely, obviously helped us to graze in a greater herd size and increase stock density, thereby improving grazing distribution.
The grass has improved tremendously. A lot of that is just in the simple math of obtaining an animal forage balance. And the Blues are very conscientious about grazing utilization and making sure that we're kind of at that take half, leave half mark.
In Reno County, the Blue Partnership is surrounded by crop acres. However, they've moved away from grain production and worked with the Cheney Lake Watershed Task Force to fund the conversion of more than 1,500 crop acres back to perennial grasses and cover crops.
As you see, there's a lot of row crops around here, and I know this is kind of what we're doing is a little
little off the wall, but I like the fact that we're regenerating the land back to what it should be.
So the more work we did with cover crops and grazing those cover crops, and as commodity prices came down as well, it was a pretty easy transition for us to say, you know, we don't need to harvest grain from this. We can actually grow a grazing crop and harvest it with cattle.
Now, whether on their irrigated pasture or native range, CJ and Russell are continuing to build a family tradition of improving their cattle and their land year after year.
Whether it's the land resource that we're working with or the cattle we're working with, I know that whenever I get up in the morning, the decisions I make are going to affect the longevity of our operation, really.
It's what CJ and I are, you know, our families are made of, and I'm pretty proud of that direction that we've moved, and just the fact that our kids hopefully get to share in that. To our family, it's very important.
This is an operation we definitely managed for a long-term approach. So we definitely manage our cow herd and our land resource with the idea that it's going to the next generation. So sustainability is a huge part of that. So we want to manage for the next 50 years and not the next 5 months.
That's one of the things we take a lot of pride in is how we can transform it, how we can improve it, and always for the long term. We're looking for, I always said, you know, my kids may not get it, but I'm going to treat it like they are.
Up next, it's time once again for our good friend Baxter Black. Stay with us.
Getting to run a family farm is a dream come true. When you can grow good grass, there's opportunity to grow plenty of weeds. We want to use the tools that will help us do a better job. I would like the legacy to be that we took really good care of the land, and we truly did it as a passion, and we did our very best for the right reasons.
Did you know that Prefert makes over 1,000 different farm, ranch, and rodeo items? And now, thanks to Prefert Direct, it's easier than ever before to get access to every item Prefert makes delivered direct to your local dealer. For more information about Prefert Direct, visit us at prefert.com. Prefert, America's #1 name in farm, ranch, and rodeo.
Colorado Saddlery, highest quality, reasonable price. Well, that about says it. In business since 1945, a family operation who make, sell, ride, and take pride in what they put on a horse. A wide choice for ranchers, cowboys, outfitters, barrel racers, cutters, reiners, and light ones for trail riders. And cowboy poets, of course. I've been riding mine for 20 years. 303-572-8350. Shipping's free on new saddles. ColoradoSaddlery.com. We were working cows at Grouse Creek. Tinker was the cook. It wasn't that he was a great cook, but he'd always done it. He made a big pot of chili and beans the first night. It was enough to feed the 7 of us, plus any visiting cavalry platoon. After supper, we all loaded in the pickup and drove 15 miles down to Pop's Natural Hot Springs. Well, we bathed and soaked and loaded up and drove back to our outfit. But on arrival, Tinker realized that we'd left his little dog, Lady, back at Pop's. He was very upset, so he backtracked. Well, the rest of us slept peacefully that night. The chili and beans were fresh. Next morning, we stumbled into breakfast. The familiar aroma of chili and beans filled the kitchen. Unusual breakfast fare, but nobody said anything. Tinker looked like a dying duck in a thunderstorm. He'd been out all night looking for Lady. He reheated the chili and beans for lunch, and by supper, chili and beans, Tinker had become irritable. He'd walk to the window every few minutes and look down the road. Well, that night, we slept with the doors and windows open in the bunkhouse. At breakfast, an unpleasant deja vu lay heavy over the table. The chili and beans was the consistency of South Dakota gumbo and smelled like burning brakes. Tinker spoke to no one all day. For supper, we had chili and bean sludge. It was the closest I've come to eating lava. That night, we slept outside. Breakfast the third day was fried adobe that tasted vaguely of chili and beans. We ate in silence, accompanied by the growling sounds of indigestion and explosive borborygmia. Then we heard a scratching at the door. Tinker jumped up and ran out there and took a look. There was Lady, sore-footed, dusty, and glad to be home. Tinker picked her up like a baby and hugged her. She licked his face. Still holding her, he took a big T-bone steak out of the fridge and slapped it in the frying pan. After a couple of turns, he put it on the floor in front of her, and she ate all she could and lay down, exhausted. Needless to say, we were happy for both of them, but after he left, we dove the bone. This is Baxter Black from out there.
Today, we had the chance to highlight the 2019 regional winners of the Environmental Stewardship Award. If you'd like to find out more about these winning operations, see photos and videos, or even learn how to nominate someone for the award next year, visit the website environmentalstewardship.org. For this week's legacy photos, we've got some beautiful images from this year's Environmental Stewardship Award-winning operations. Let's take a look. Well, that's all for this special edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next week right here on RFD TV.